today's film that my friend Austin and I are discussing is a film called Captain Phillips. It is released in 2013, and it's based on true events. It is a drama thriller and directed by Paul Greengrass, and it stars Tom Hanks and Barkhad Abdi. Now I probably butchered his name, but those two are like the essentially the two main characters, the two main
Yeah.
like they're captains of their respective crews. One of which is the Tom Hanks is playing Richard Phillips, who is the captain of a cargo ship going through the Horn of Africa. The Horn of Africa, basically going through like the eastern side of eastern coast of Africa through Somalia, and or Somalian waters, if you will. And Barkad Abdi is playing basically the leader of these Somalian pirates who are trying to infiltrate or hijack the cargo ship that Tom Hanks's character is captaining. So that's basically the premise of this whole film. It's based on true events, and yeah, that's essentially what this film is about. It's just like it's essentially following the Captain Phillips, his journey from on this ship, on this cargo ship, and then being, oh, spoilers alert, being hijacked by these Somalian pirates, and then being captured by them, and then of course the very end where he is rescued successfully. Spoiler alert. It is based on true story, so it's not really like when you watch it, you can always just look up if you really want to see the real life events. To be fair, yeah, I guess if it ended poorly, like if it ended with his death, I was gonna say there might not have been a story, but yeah, I guess they could always
Yeah.
create one,
No, it was.
but but yeah, Austin, what are your thoughts on this film? Overall thoughts? Did you enjoy it? Did you not
I
enjoy it?
Yeah, I enjoy the movie. They try to depict real events, as you said. I wonder how much of it, is true, and how much of it is, dramatization. Just for the
Mm-hmm.
sake of making an entertaining movie.
Yep.
Um, but I liked it. It was a very good movie. It was maybe not as too suspenseful, because we all know at the end what kind of happened, right? Captain Phillips is saved, but during the whole event, like how he gets there, how the pirates come aboard and find them, it was just interesting to follow and to watch. The timeline of this of this kind of big breaking news story that happened. Um, back in, I think, when did this happen? 2009. So
2000, maybe 2010, but yeah, or sometime around that. Oh, 2009. Yes, 2009.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. Um, so it was a very interesting film. And then also, which is kind of funny, but I used to work in the ocean shipping industry.
Oh
Um,
yeah. Okay. Tell us more about
so
that.
So I've had experience with ocean containers, and actually I was on a cargo ship like this, so I'm able to see how being shot. I was like, oh, I remember all these locations, and it's funny how they all look the same on the inside, kind of.
Mm-hmm.
But it's funny, even though I've worked in such a company before, I never really watched this movie, but I've always used this as an example when people ask what kind of industry I work in. It's like, oh, if you've ever watched Captain Phillips, that's the kind of shipping that we do, not like Amazon or UPS or FedEx
Mm-hmm.
and whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but now I finally got a chance to watch it, and yes, it's a big movie. Tom Hanks is great in the movie, and so are all the pirates. Um, I think the acting was pretty good. The
Mm-hmm.
the events depicted, sometimes seemed a bit to drag on, but it does depict true events, and I don't know how much the director wanted to stray from it, didn't want to dramatize too much, and also at the same time, like all the locations, right, was pretty much set on the ship, right? They didn't It's all in one area, one scenery, right? So you have to make the most of being able to be on there. And the real highlight, right, I think of this movie is the relationship between Captain Phillips and between the pirate. What's his name? As
Musa.
Abduli
Musa.
Musa.
Musa
Musa.
is his name.
Yeah,
Yeah.
between Musa. Um, so I think that's the main focus of this movie, main story,
Oh,
and
actually,
how they
Muse.
react to each
Sorry,
other.
sorry. I apologize. Muse, not Musa.
Muse.
Like Muse. My bad.
Oh, right, Muse. So I think this between relationships between those two. And it's interesting also how the movie also depicted the pirates, right? How they depicted Muse, kind of gave them a more sympathetic light, right? To show this is kind of a situation by circumstance, right? It's not like these are, they like, they're not pirates because they're me, like, they're out to, hurt somebody. They're there just to make a living, right? Because of how poor they are. It turns to crime. It's a kind of a story of like, showing like, kind of the effects of globalization, because they said like, how all these other international ships come and fish in their waters, so that it leaves them with nothing, and they have to find a way to make a living. But the main themes, I think, is just between Muse and Captain Phillips, as well as just you know what these characters are dropped in. I think while Captain Phillips is definitely the main um, the main character, right? And we follow his point of view. I think a lot of the story kind of dwells deep into Muses and the rest of the pirate band, kind of like what they're doing, their how they see it, each situation and why they're in the situation, right? We kind of get to learn more. We're seeing Captain Phillips' POV of getting to learn more about these pirates, and how they interact. And again, it is just a story of kind of a harrowing tale of how does Captain Phillips survive. So I thought it was pretty decent movie to depicting that. Nothing really too deep, right? It's just again based on true events, and it kind of dramatizes and make it a little bit more exciting than what might have actually happened.
Yep. Yeah. I would agree with you. It's pretty straightforward film, in terms of like, yeah, I guess the events that set out. Although when I was watching it, so like there wasn't a lot of like it kind of went straight into, I feel like there wasn't a lot of exposition toward like setting up the events. It was just like, oh yeah, it starts with him at home, and then he flies out to his destination and then gets on the ship. And actually I thought that was really well done, because it really didn't need that much exposition, I think.
That's true. It just started with him and his wife, right?
Yeah.
Just driving to the airport.
Yeah.
And that was it.
That was
and
it.
then
Yeah.
getting on the ship, and then also the pirate band as well, right? It's like the beginning was just them picking the crew. The warlord comes in, tells them to get money. They get the crew, and they go off. So yeah, you're right. Like in the first 10-15 minutes, everyone was established of like starting out and going on their way to converge.
Yeah, and I think that was all right, because it wasn't like essentially you kind of already knew like, all right, this is the captain, like he's going to captain the ship. Captain Phillips is going to captain the ship, and then of course Muse and his crew are like pirates. So you already like basically knew what was going to what a potential conflict was going to happen, where like these pirates are going to try to hijack the ship that Captain Phillips is captaining. So it's like the exposition didn't overstay its welcome, and I think that was very well executed, because there didn't need to be a long exposition. It could just go straight into like the overall conflict of the movie.
Yeah, we want to see the action right away.
Yeah, the action right away. Yeah, and tension. I think there was a lot of like, this movie also did a really good job of tension. Like you really didn't know exactly, like, I guess if you knew the historical events, you kind of knew what overall was going to happen. But like, let's say you didn't know the historical events, you didn't know exactly like how it was going to end, or like what events were going to unfold. So for instance, like as the pirates were, the first time the pirates are coming, like I could have been like, oh, that's when they're going to hijack, and there was a crew of 8. They're like more pirates than just the 4 that hijacked successfly.
Oh yeah.
But then they were the Phillips and his crew were able to like fend them off. So that was a very nice like oh, like you didn't know at that time that they weren't going to get hijacked, but or maybe if you knew the historical events, you knew that there was too many, so that they were going to successfully evade them that time. But it was a nice like oh, this is sort of like building up some tension, building up to the point where they do board, because it was like, oh, they successfully fend them off, so like what's next? And then of course after that event, they go down to the crew, or they convene. Phillips and his crew convene, and then the crew is like, I want to get out. Like, they're gonna come back, and then Phillips is like, oh, we'll just do the same thing again. It'll work again, and it's like, all right, this is probably the point where like something wrong is gonna happen, and of course something wrong does happen because the hose is like not set in place. So then the pirates are able to get onto an opening, and at this point I'm not sure how historically accurate it is, but it made for good storytelling, because of course it made sense as a device to like for the it gave them the opportunity to the pirates to like get on board.
Right.
Right. But there's kind of cool. I did learn some interesting stuff about like how to fend off pirates. Like I didn't know that they actually use water from the hoses to like prevent pirates to actually get on, which makes sense because I'm assuming that water is being pumped from the ocean or something, maybe. Like I'm assuming
Probably.
they're not using their like own supply of water to do that.
No, it's definitely not fresh water. It's either I think there is like a pump that they can suck from directly from the ocean.
Yeah.
Or they also have ballast tanks as well, which is also possible. The ballast tanks in the ship help balance the ship, but I don't know if that's probably not used because you need those to again help balance the ship with such heavy cargo. So I think it is pumped directly from the ocean.
Yeah.
And it makes sense, right? For that amount of water to spray at such a long period of time.
And the pressure, at least high pressure.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was actually, that was pretty cool. Like I didn't know that was a thing, so I learned something new about preventing pirate hijacks. I'm not sure if they still do that. Like maybe they still do.
Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. But another thing.
I think.
Sorry, go on.
I was gonna say, I think like a lot of anti-piracy measures, right? It has to be a kind of like non-violent. Like ships, at least the crew are not allowed to bring their own fire weapons, arms, because of different like treaties and laws.
I was gonna ask that.
So yeah, they're not technically. That's why a lot of these ships kind of get hijacked because they're not allowed to have armed weapons on board.
Yeah.
There are times, like I think more modern time, like more like today, where companies are starting to hire companies, PMCs, to at least go on board the ship and then get off the ship. They're not allowed to go from port to port because that's like transporting weapons. So it has to be like get on during the water and then you get off in the water as well, like international waters. But then you at least have like an armed escort during that part of the trip. But yeah, they're not allowed to have weapons from like port to port, otherwise you're like transporting it.
Yeah, I was actually wondering that throughout the film, is like, why do they just not carry their own firearms for self-defense?
And nope, not allowed to.
So it's because of like international.
Like, international law, and then different countries has different like policies around it, whatnot, right? Because if you carry weapons from one port to another port, right, it's kind of like transporting weapons, right? You're trading weapons, even though you don't intend to, right? You're shifting it from one country to another country, and that's not allowed, right? Because of all the import-export rules. So that's why a lot of ships, they go unarmed. They have to go through 9 mile ways, right? Like locking up the decks with gates. We saw how little that did with being faced with a gun, but also again with the water hoses, right? That's another tactic. And then you saw Captain Phillips become more inventive with flares and whatnot. But you can't really do much. And some companies also around the ship, they would put barbed wire, right? Once they cast off from the port.
I see.
That can help as well. So there's different defensive measures, right? But it's like, again, most of it is usually nonviolent. But nowadays, I think you can like hire like a company, but they have to meet you at sea, and they have to leave at sea. They can't meet you at port.
Oh, I see. That makes sense.
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay. That answers my question. I was going to ask about that in terms of like why, because I was just thinking that for the film. I was like, why couldn't they just carry their own guns? So it kind of like. Yeah. I mean, okay, that makes sense. That makes more sense now. It was sort of one of the things that like I thought of, and I was like, there has to be a good reason for this, and there is a good reason for it. So,
international law and each country's own export, and that's why piracy was so prominent, right? Because These ships went on unguarded. It's like, big floating masses of treasure, big targets, right? And they was like, oh, let's get it. They can't fight back, right? And
Yep.
we're the ones with the guns.
Yep.
And we just board it and, take them hostage and get a ransom. Companies are usually willing to pay. And
Yep.
that's why you have all these international coalitions go into the sea, right? Send their Navy warships to help patrol, right? So this way, if a ship is in trouble, you have at least somebody nearby to help you.
Yep.
And the coast of Somali, right? That area, the Horn of Africa, is really high in piracy, as well as the before I think the Straits of Malacca near Malaysia, right?
Wow, look at
That's
this!
also
Look at this insight.
that was really big.
Bring on this man for if you're going on if you're going on a sea expedition to avoid the piracy trails. I looked up some statistics on piracy, and apparently the number of pirate cases has decreased overall since the 2010. It's been decreasing.
Yeah.
There was a bit of a jump in 2018, a slight bump increase, but like the trend has been decreasing, which is I guess good. I guess,
Yeah,
or
no, definitely.
like people maybe some ships are actually like what you're suggesting. They're hiring armed guards.
Yeah.
To
And
like
I think also the help
maybe.
presence of the international coalition, right? Because now you have all these warships patrolling.
Mm-hmm.
And before it was just like, oh, people like, the problem just started. So now people are more aware, and they're not willing to, risk their own lives going out,
Right.
to meet a warship. It's,
Yeah.
what kind of, stood out to me in that movie was, I think that the time that the U.S. Navy came, and you had these three big warships following one little lifeboat, and that was pretty funny. I was like, oh wow,
Yeah, that
they're
was
just following it,
interesting.
but yeah, it's like the same thing. Like no one wants to face the U.S. Navy, right?
Yeah.
Or any Navy warship,
Yeah.
pretty much.
Yeah.
And all these partners, like all these warships, are from different countries. From U.S., Europe, right, and even China, has sent, because China has, a lot of big trade interests, right? They just have warships patrolling, and no one wants to face any of these, big
Oh, yeah,
guns. If
for
you're just
sure.
a small pirate with a small AK-47 and a trawler, so I guess these times are skiffs. So
Yeah. I actually so this is something from something I learned more about watching this film is that what modern day piracy looks like. So like
yeah,
the only thing I really knew
it's
about
not your
pirates.
Pirates of Caribbean.
Yeah, I was gonna say like, okay, my first viewers out there, I'm pretty like I don't really know much about piracy or modern day piracy. So when I was watching this film and I knew that it was about piracy, I was like the only thing I really knew about it was from Pirates of the Caribbean, and that's like first of all that's fantasy, and second of all that's like from a different era. So I was very curious what modern day piracy looked like, and it looked like pretty like there is like a lot there is a more like they had the pirates themselves, and we'll talk about this a little bit more, but the Somalian pirates themselves, they actually had more technology than I expected. Like they actually had like radio communication, and
Yeah.
their I mean their engines weren't as like proficient as like the I guess the ships the cargo ships engines or like navy's engines or just they're like overall their knowledge and the technology definitely wasn't as on par with that of like the ships or the navies or whatever, but they still had more than I thought like they expected, like I still thought they I actually was kind of surprised they had radio at least. I was like wow, that's more than I
Well,
already expected from them. Because I
yeah,
I
I mean,
always my vision what I pictured in terms of modern day piracy was just like this like ragtag team of like people trying to like on like some sort of like small boat, which I guess is kind of true. They were trying to just jump
yeah.
on with some guns, and for the most part I was correct. But like they had more tools at their disposal than I thought. So it was interesting to see get like a glimpse of like this what modern day piracy looks like.
Yeah, no, I mean it kind of makes sense, right? I mean you can steal it from from other shipments that you
Ships,
get
yeah.
from, as well as they have connections, right, to the outside world, right, with the warlord going outside. You probably provided the equipment to help with piracy right in the beginning. You have the warlord coming in, and I think they kind of stated like the trawler, right, not the skiffs that they were in, but the trawler that was kind of like the mothership that was going first off was actually a I think they said a Taiwanese fishing boat, right? That they
Mm-hmm.
stole. So like
Mm-hmm.
they're able to hijack all these different ships and then take it for themselves,
Hmm.
and then probably has with all the equipment that they need to do all the piracy that they can, and then make it become more have a more effective operation.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're right. It's interesting, right, to see a kind of a modern look of how these guys do it, right? It's kind of quick and efficient, right, and at high speed.
Yeah.
These kind of high speed powerboat or skiffs going off the water and trying to make go against the waves, the wake of these big cargo ships, and then boarding it and taking hostage. And as you said, it's all, or at least for them, it was all just business. They're trying to make it a better living in this situation they have, right? They're being forced because they're in poverty
Hmm.
to make a living, and then even then they have a boss to report to, the warlord to report to, so they can't even what I think stood out in the movie, right? Muse was like, oh, I took a Greek ship last year,
6 million.
$6 million,
Yeah.
right? But he didn't see any of it, right? He was still poor. He's still, very thin and seemed pretty hungry, and still had to do all this piracy, even though he was just a fisherman. And $6 million, he didn't see any cent of it, right? It went all to the bosses, the
Yeah.
warlords and whatnot, and he still has to continue doing the dirty work. He still has to risk his life, going out to sea and hijacking more ships.
Yeah. Yeah. It's pretty unfortunate. I mean, that's tough lifestyle. Almost like, yeah, that's just being taken advantage of essentially. uh, but yeah, there was speaking about Muse more in general, but yeah, there was a little. I did enjoy his little some of his little conversations with Phillips when they were on the lifeboat after Phillips got captured. They were talking about like Phillips was like, oh, like you're a fisherman, right? But like, are you going to keep doing this for the rest of your life? And then Muse was like, well, I mean, no, because after this I will go to America and become someone else, like become something else. In America I can become like, do something more or do something different.
Yeah, buy a car and yeah.
Buy a car, yeah, it's something like, buy these things that like can increase his quality of life. And that was like a pretty, yeah, I felt that those short conversations were those like good moments where it kind of like you kind of like sympathized with him, even though he was the villain.
Yeah.
Um, and in the end, he did get his wish. He did go to America.
You have to
He
go
did
to
go to the
America.
U.S.
Yeah.
He did. So basically, what happened, and this is all historical events, so it's like kind of like it's spoilers in the movies, but like these are based on historical events, so it's not really like
Big event. That
it's a
was
big
yeah.
event. Yeah. So like yeah, so the Muse, the only surviving pirate out of the four, he was tried for piracy by the United States government, and he was found guilty, and then so he he
Ended up in an
basically
American prison.
got in prison in federal court, federal prison for like, I think his sentence was like 33 years. I read it on
Yeah,
Wikipedia.
33 years.
And he's still serving it to this day. So, and apparently, like I also read on Wikipedia that during prison he got his like GED, which is like a general
Oh,
like
really?
diploma sort of thing. It's kind
Yeah,
of like a
yeah.
replacement for high school, if you will. Um, and yeah, it was pretty interesting. Like it's like he definitely he got his wish. Like I don't know how accurate that conversation was from the film to the movie, but like
Right.
at least from the film's perspective of the film, he did get his wish of like going to the United States, having a new life, and like he is kind of making something out of it. Like he got his GED, and like he's, I think, like he's still in prison, but he's at least doing something with his life now,
Yeah.
which is pretty. In some way, it's kind of heartwarming to see that. But although like
But
it's in
to
a
be there for 33 years.
yeah, but he would still be alive. Like he's in
That's
his
true.
I don't know how old he's. I think
He
he's
was
in
he
his
was a teenager, 18, 19,
18,
or
19?
17.
Okay,
He was like yeah,
he'll be in his 40s
yeah.
when he gets out. Maybe like, yeah. So, and I don't know if he's going to be like if he'll be able to stay in the United States.
I don't think he will. I think they're gonna just deport him back.
Yeah.
Um, which is, I think, going to be it's kind of sad to think about, right? Because he's going to be back, 30 years later to a country that's going to be so changed,
Yeah.
and he's going to probably will have nothing, right? So I don't know how it will turn out for him if he ever when he does return back home.
Hmm.
So I mean, yeah, he has his high school diploma. I mean, maybe he can I don't think he can even stay in the U.S. because he was, has a record, right? He's a pirate. So
That is true. That is true. I don't know. Maybe like
unless he makes royalties out of his, but 30 years later, it might be a bit much. Or he can write a book. You
could
know,
write a book. That's true.
someone can, publish it. He can learn, yeah, yeah. Well, they all spoke English, right? But he can, write something, have someone help him write a book and sell it. What he learned, what he was as being, what turned him to be a pirate,
Yeah.
and then what he learned in prison. That'd be
That would
probably an
sell.
interesting read.
Yeah.
I think
So
so.
it would be an interesting read for sure from his perspective because the film was like
Yeah.
kind of more so from like you saw it more from the protagonist was Phillips, but like maybe like there was something more insight from Muse's perspective, who's the pirate. So it would have been pretty. It would be interesting. It would be a good read. Yeah. So I think overall, like something else about the film that I found somewhat interesting is that so we my friend and I we watched it on this service called IMDb TV, and pretty nice. It is a free service. I'm just going to quick shout out because it is very nice. It's a free service, but it has ads. Now
Yeah.
these ads are sometimes ill placed because they kind of interrupt the flow of the movie, but there are a couple ads in this film where I kind of like it kind of forces you to see like the time of where you're at in the movie, and so something of this film was like when they successfully hijacked the ship and they were about to leave. Like basically okay, so what happened was the pirates hijacked the ship, the crew were all hiding, and then the crew was successfully able to subdue Muse, who was the leader,
Yeah.
and then
Yep.
sort of do like a trade with Phillips because they were both like about to go on their way. Like they had gotten the $30,000. They were going to take the lifeboat and leave. And at this point, there was an ad that played, and I saw that the movie was like halfway through. And I was like, wait, this movie's only halfway done, yet they're about to leave, so there's something's going to happen. Something has to happen. And then, of course, they capture Phillips, and I'm like, all right, Act 2. This is the second act
Right.
of this film. So I just
Into
found that
the
was pretty
ocean.
interesting because I was like, wait a minute, this film can't end with like prematurely. Like, what else is going to happen? Something else has to happen. So
Yeah.
that was when like Phillips got captured into the lifeboat by the pirates, and of course the whole U.S. Navy got involved, and then like, there was a whole like rescue, um,
Mhm.
rescue, basically the rescue act, if you will.
Yeah.
So yeah, this film is basically divided into two main parts. I would say like the first part is like the piracy, like the pirates hijacking the ship, and then the second part is the rescue mission.
Right.
Um,
Out at sea and what they're doing,
Yeah.
how to get it back.
Yeah, like it's pretty yeah, I mean it flows, and like the second act where like they were trying to rescue Phillips, like the Navy or the U.S. Navy was trying to rescue Phillips. I felt like that was like, I guess there were tense points and test there was tension in both acts. Like the first act
Yeah.
when the pirates were hijacking, I actually thought some of the crew was gonna die, like they were gonna get shot and just get killed.
Oh yeah.
But none of them died. None of them even were like injured that seriously.
Right.
So like,
Right.
I guess it did build like nice tension in terms of like I didn't really know what was going to happen.
Right.
But there was this one point when so the reason the pirates were able to hijack the ship was because there was a loose hose. Like one of the hoses was not
Yeah.
in place. So one of the crew, I think it was the
The first
the
mate.
first mate. Yeah, he had to
Second
go
mate.
down and like fix the hose. And at this point, the pirates are incoming. They saw that opening. They were going to come on board, and they started like shooting at the first mate. So I thought at that point like the first mate was going to die, and they were just going to able to hijack. But he was able to successfully get the hose on, but it was at that point too late. The pirates were able to like sink onto their ladder.
Yep. Yep.
And that was one of those moments that was like I felt it was very like there was tension. Like there was I felt like something was going to happen, but like it kind of like built and then like cascaded down. Like nothing happened.
Yeah.
But it's like this is what this film I think does a good job of. It like builds this tension of like, oh, what's going to happen? You don't know what's going to happen in this moment, but then like it kind of like ebbs and flows in and out. Like you get hype, you get like synced in to see what's happening, and then like it calms down, and then like it builds up again, and then it calms down.
Yeah.
Which is like a really nice. So as a thriller, it does a good job in doing that, I think. At least in my opinion. I don't know how do you feel about this like ebb and flow of tension throughout the film?
Yeah, I mean, I think it definitely had its more suspenseful moments, and I think you're right. You know, some of the moments, you know, at least I think during the first half when they're boarding the ship and we're on the ship, I think that's where the most of the suspense was. Right, they had a very intense game of hide and seek in the engine room.
Yeah, yeah, that was. I thought that was well done. I thought it was well executed. Like the whole.
It was,
like,
and they had to cut off the emergency lights, which was on the upper deck, and he had to go. The chief engineer was just like had to be smart and try to divert the attention away.
Yep.
So that was I think very suspenseful. But yeah, just the whole when Muse was in the cargo hold and how they go in, how he might find the crew. I think that was the more suspenseful portions, and what he would do. And but I think it kind of I think it was more of the first half of the movie where I think a lot more of the thrill, right, was there, because you don't know what these pirates are doing. You just met these actors, or not actors. You just met this pirate crew, right? The ship just met this crew, and we don't know what they're about, right? How fierce will they be? How kind of ruthless, right? It turns out that they're not as ruthless, right? They're here just for business, and I think that makes them a little bit more sympathetic, right? Because they're not out there to hurt anybody really. They just want to do an easy job. And everyone will be fine, right?
Yeah.
But again, the first time we meet them, right, it's kind of intense, and it's kind of like the intense game of hide and seek, trying to just see when the first mate was in the kitchen, right, in the mess hall.
Yeah.
That was intense because he was being in the freezer, and Captain Phillips tried to divert attention because he realized that one of his crewmates was in the kitchen, right, and tries to divert. So it was really, really tense. I think in the second half it was more of an action kind of like you kind of not. I think the way that it teaches at the ebb of the whole suspense kind of wasn't there. This is more of kind of like an action pack kind of thing. Like, oh, he's stuck in the water now, right? Like how do they rescue him? You kind of figure it out. Like what will the U.S. Navy prevail, and will Captain Phillips be safe at that point? I guess the most tense, one of the more tenseful ones was when Captain Phillips actually jumps into the water, right? Pushes off the young kid and jumps into the water, and I was just like, oh my gosh.
Okay. There's something I want to talk about those. There's some moments in the second act, the part where the Navy was trying to rescue Phillips. But go on.
Yeah. So he goes into the water, and then you're hoping that the Navy spots him, and the captain helps and rescues him. But everyone was like kind of cautious. I mean, this is kind of understandable, but at the same time, it's like you were hoping like some action would have been done to help Captain Phillips at that point, because he was free. He was swimming back, and if someone did some kind of action, and then the Navy SEALs are in the area already parachuting down. And they're just like, oh, very so close, right? But no, they were able to do it, and Muse and his crew was able to recapture Phillips, and I think put him into a worse situation than he was before, because before they were kind of okay with him, and you got that one guy who's more aggressive, but they're still like treating him hospitably, I guess in a way. But now they're kind of on tense, on edge, because this guy just tried to escape, and now everything was, I think, escalated from there once he tried to escape.
Yeah.
And then there was the whole portion as well when Captain Phillips, when he was writing his note, and then the more aggressive pirate, took it away, and he, they attacked him. And I was like, what are you doing? Like, why are you fighting this? I mean, I think, it made it really more, he made the situation worse on himself.
Yeah.
At that point.
Yeah.
Which I didn't understand or guess. Like, you were fine before, and, be attacking him. Like, did you think we were going to win? Like you're fighting, I think he should have just waited. Like, he knew the Navy was going to take action, and he just, did it all himself, and he risked everything.
Scene 15. They even told him. He even told them what seat they were on. It's like, all right, the Navy knows where not to shoot.
Exactly. But yeah, there's definitely has some moments, I think, throughout the film. But sometimes, yeah, I think the first half, you really, I think I really bought into it. And I was just like, really tense, and like what would happen, who would get hurt,
Yeah.
what would the pirates do?
Yeah.
Second half, like each side was willing. I think the more variable with the aggressive pirate. I think his name was Najee.
No G. Yeah.
Yeah, and then but the other moments that you just kind of question what was happening. But yeah, it's still tense throughout the second half of the film as well until we have the final relief at the end.
Yeah. So, something about I want to talk more about the first act a little bit in terms of the tension. So I remember there was one scene in particular that was really tense, and that was the scene where Najee, I think, had a gun pointed at one of the not the first mate, but one of the crew
I think it was
on deck, or not deck, but the wherever that I don't know what it's called.
The bridge.
The bridge. Okay, yeah, the bridge. Sorry. Thank you for the maritime terminology. But yeah, so there was a scene where so the crew were all hiding in the engine room. The rest of the crew were all hiding in the engine room, but then there were four of the crew. I guess the captain, the first mate, and then two others I don't know the names of. They were on the bridge. And so the pirates were able to hijack or they were able to infiltrate. They got to the bridge, and then there was the whole standoff scene, and then there was the point where Muse was basically he was aggressively interrogating Captain Phillips about the whereabouts of the crew, the contents of the ship, and how much money you have, and then one of the Najee, I think, which is one of the pirates, the very aggressive pirate, he had a gun held at one of the guys on the bridge, and he was basically he was saying every minute one of you is going to die if I don't get answers about the contents of the ship, or how much money there is, or where the crew is essentially.
No, where the crew is. He wanted to find the crew so he can get the ship working.
Okay, I see.
The ship kind of shut down.
Okay, I see. Okay, yeah. So he was he made a threat. It was every minute that passes where I don't know where the crew is, I'm going to kill someone. And so there was the gun pointed at the crew in the very beginning, and I thought, so that was a really tense moment because it was very close. It was that guy was going to shoot. he was pretty aggressive. He looked like he was about to shoot, and so I wasn't actually sure what was going to happen, and I feel this moment really set the tone for the rest of the movie, because if he had shot, I knew there was going to be more there this film wasn't going to be very there was going to be a lot more consequences,
more
bloodshed in this film. But in the last moment, Muse was wait, because Phillips was is this how you do business? This isn't he was basically just talking to Muse, saying talking him down to the point where almost to the point where he was not necessarily toying with him, but he was questioning his very methodology, and then Muse.
He's trying to play, I think, on his empathy, right? Because I think Captain Phillips kind of realized these guys are not here because they want to, right? They're not here because they're bad people, right? They're here because they're poor, right? And they just want to do an easy job. They don't want to hurt anybody.
Yeah.
I mean, he plays to that, right? And he tries to be more tries to get that sympathy and just say, hey, you don't really want to hurt these people, right? You want to, you don't want to hurt us. You're just doing a job.
Yeah.
And I think he tries to, prey on that, and he tries to play on his humanity. And Muse, kind of says, yeah, you know what, I don't want to. He says it throughout. I don't want to hurt anybody. No, easy job. He doesn't. Right. He wants to do, everything. Right. And what's interesting was Najee. He picked Najee, right, because he wanted a strong man on the crew.
Yep.
But it was commented, Najee, why would you pick Najee? At the beginning, he's outside from the village. He's not from that was one of the comments. He's not from our village. He's an outsider. The other two people were from so they were all kind of had the same
mindset. Yeah.
Mindset. This outsider, right? And he he's willing to be
that's actually a really good observation. Yeah. No, that's actually really good. I didn't think about. I didn't. Yeah, I forgot that Najee was actually outside the village. Something I forgot, a detail that I forgot. That actually makes a lot more sense, because he was definitely the most aggressive out of the bunch. He didn't really sink. It didn't seem like he
was willing to hurt more, and yeah.
He wasn't as much of a team player as the others were.
Yeah.
Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Wow. Okay. But yeah, from that moment where I guess when Phillips was playing with
Yeah.
was trying to settle Muse down, with, and I guess in your eyes, and which I kind of agree with, playing with, sort of just like introducing a bit of like humanity toward him, and saying like, oh, this is not, it's supposed to be easy, this is not what you want to do, you don't want to kill people, you don't want this bloodshed. And so when Muse told Neji to step down, it kind of, for me, this was like one of those films, it set the tone for the rest of the film, where it's like there's going to be some tension, but it didn't seem like there's going to be like the consequences, like the bloodshed will be kept at like more of a minimum,
Yeah.
at least from like how I interpreted it.
It was a very pivotal moment. I agree.
Yeah,
You're right. It did kind of set like, okay, will they, how far are they willing to go?
yeah, exactly. Yep.
And you're right. I think it was, I agree. I think that was actually a very pivotal moment. Like it established the relationship between these two, right?
Yeah.
Will they be, working together in terms of or will they be like more antagonistic?
Yeah.
I mean, you see here, right? It's more of a relationship, right? Muse was willing to walk, take the tour of the bridge afterwards, and was more susceptible to what Captain Phillips was saying. But yeah, it could have gone a different way.
Yeah.
I agree. It definitely set the point of like how they would interact with each other.
Yeah.
From that point on.
And I think it also did a job, like it did a job in terms of like more you kind of like not. I think it introduced the opportunity for you to sympathize with Muse later on, because you like at the point where like at this point where he told Neji not to kill the crew member, you sort of saw that like, oh, he's not there just to like wreak mayhem and cause bloodshed, like he's just there to like do the easy job, like just get it done with and leave, and then like not cause any like any sort of like permanent damage, more so. I don't know, like I don't know, like yeah, he's just there to do his work, do business, and then get out. That's it.
Yep.
So yeah, that was like I just want to talk about that particular scene, at least for me, because I thought it was very pivotal. And also, I did enjoy Tom Hanks's when he was like giving them the tour. He was like the pirates a tour of the entire ship. It was very like, I don't know, I just felt it was very like, even though it was very tense, still tense, in terms of like circumstances, because like, I mean, Muse and the pirates are trying to find the crew so they can get the ship to work.
Yeah.
And Tom Hanks is like giving them like, like trying to treat them like really well, and like, oh, like, well, this is like deck A, and then this is where we cook, and then like, and then there's a point when Muse sees they pass in the hallway, and Muse sees sort of like a blueprint or just like the outline of the ship and how it's designed.
Yeah.
And he's like, I want to go to the engine room, because I think that's where we can like start the ship or whatever. Maybe that's what he was thinking.
Makes sense.
Makes sense. Yeah, and Phillips is like, if we want to go about this in a systematic way, you want to see the whole ship, right? He's like, we should start here and then go to the deck B or whatever deck. I don't know. And it was really funny just to see Tom Hanks kind of like play like tour guide with these pirates. I just found that really amusing.
Yeah, he was saying like, oh, I want to find these guys just as much as you do. I was like,
yeah.
Like what?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And it's like, do you guys want to drink a water? We need to go get some, like, we need to get hydrated before we go on this expedition. And it's like, I don't know, I just felt it was so funny to like see Tom Hanks play like this tour guide with these pirates. It was pretty amusing.
Yeah. I think it's fine. I do want to point out though that getting the water, I think was a valid point to make, because these engine rooms, right, are really, really hot, and I'm surprised that the crew member was like staying down there for so long. And they definitely need to walk, because I remember when I was on the ship, right? Oh my! I took a tour of the engine room.
Yeah. And
it was unbearable. Like all the heat that was inside should go lower.
Yeah.
It was like really, really hot. So like I was just like, I just wanted to point that out. But yeah, it's really, really hot. Really, really hot. Especially when you're in the desert, in that area desert. I'm just compounded as well. So.
Well, there you go. There's our expert right here, maritime expert. Once again, good detail. I guess the water was important because, one, it made sense because the engine rooms are hot, and two, because it kind of stalled them for enough time to like set up.
That's true.
Yeah, I guess like it was I guess it was kind of amusing that like when they set up these like yeah, it was pretty intelligent, like how, like I forget how like they were communicating because um oh, okay, yes, okay, here the premise is pretty cool, like so I just enjoyed this whole like way that they were communicating, and that how these pieces were set in place to make to further like the sort of like the act of like, or the scenes where the pirates were exploring, or Phillips was giving the showing the ship to the pirates, because if I remember correctly, the sequence of events was that um, the engine room guys were like, okay, we need to get supplies like water and food, and one of them was like, all right, I need to go shut down the lights, and then the other
Yeah.
one was like, I need to get supplies from the kitchen. So the guy who shut down lights was able to do it successfully, and then the guy who was trying to get supplies, unfortunately, was kind of like caught off guard because Muse was like, we gotta go straight to the engine room. So like Phillips wasn't able to give him enough time to like get his supplies, because they were
Hmm.
on the way to the engine room. They had to go through the kitchen, I think.
Yeah, they went
Um,
through. Yeah, exactly.
and so like I think at this point, this is like when the it's really intelligent actually. Like when the I think it was the first mate, when he was hiding in the
Yeah.
cold storage, he noticed that one of the pirates was barefoot, and so he went back to the engine room, told them to like, or like he had a
Oh,
radio.
he radioed
He
in.
radioed
Yeah.
in and was like, okay, anyone got glass that they can set up, and so that was basically the point where like they were able to um, set up a trap for the pirates. And so when the barefoot pirate stepped on the glass, he got injured, and then that was when he was Muse was like, all right, you gotta like take him back up because he's like bleeding profusely. And
Yeah.
then from there, it set up the whole like the crew was able to like overtake Muse and capture him. Um, and so I thought that was actually just really well. Like I'm not sure how historically accurate that was, but like in terms of like the sequence of events, and like it's just really nice to see like your protagonist be intelligent in these high tense moments. So I just appreciated that. Just wanted to shout out that part. I do appreciate watching intelligence unfold in real time. In real time,
how they, yeah, how they planned it
how
out
they
and
planned it out
the kind of
exactly.
tactics, right? Yeah,
Exactly, exactly.
that's
Um,
true.
and then something else. The last thing I really wanted to talk about, at least from my perspective, is something you mentioned before, and that was during the second act when the Navy was trying to save Phillips from the pirates.
Hmm.
While Phillips was in the lifeboat, there were a couple of actions that he made that I think I was like, what the heck is going? Like, why is he doing this? Like, it gave me like a WTF moment, like in my mind. The first was when you mentioned when he jumped into the water. He like
Yeah.
he tried to escape, and I was like, oh my god, making it worse. Like the Navy's like confused, like, oh my god, there's like, what's going on? Like, is that Phillips in the water or whatever? And then like now the pirates don't trust him at all, so they bring him back on board. They recapture him, and now they're more aggressive toward him. And it's like, bro, like they already had like a couple on your side. Like the kid was already like, okay, the youngest pirate um, was I think probably most sympathetic toward him because Phillips. So what happened in the film was that Phillips helped. This was the pirate that got hurt with the glass
His
on
foot
his
hurt.
foot,
Yeah.
and so Phillips actually brought a first aid kit in the lifeboat when he got captured to help tend to that pirate's foot.
Yeah.
And so that pirate was actually the most sympathetic toward Phillips, and he actually gave him water because of this act of kindness. So you like it already like more so humanizes the pirates, or at least that character, because like Phillips is like his act of kindness is being reciprocated by another act of kindness.
Mhm.
Even if they are like the villains, they are the antagonists. They are like have Phillips hostage. They still they know that they're like they don't want to like um, they're not in it to like just kill him, right, or to like maim him. They just want to go back home, get some money, and like be on with their lives, right? Like to them, it's just
Mhm.
business. So like, um, it's all like that nice touch, that nice interaction. I think was also a good way of like in a sense sympathizing with the villains and trying to like you knew that they weren't there to like kill, they were just there to like
Right.
get their money and get out. Um, but yeah, that was one thing that I was like, why is he doing this? And then the other thing was like, why is he riding why is he writing right now? And now I can understand he's like, okay, so the little premise for those of you who are watching in this chat or who will watch later, but in the film, so this is after Muse had already been apprehended by the Navy, because he's under the impression that he's going to meet with the elders and they're going to have like a transfer of money. But so this is when Muse is already in the Navy ship. So right now in the lifeboat, it's just Phillips and 3 other pirates. And at this point, basically, since Muse is not in the lifeboat, like the de facto leader is now like Najee, who is the most aggressive one and the one who probably wants to kill Phillips the most. Like he doesn't really care. So he sees that Phillips moves and he's like, all right. He tells the youngest pirate, the guy who had a foot injury that Phillips helped.
Right.
He tells him like, oh, if he moves again, kill him. And
shoot
so
him.
at this point, Phillips starts writing a note. Like he's like, and then the youngest pirate's like, you guys stop doing that, otherwise he's gonna kill us both. And then Najee notices that Phillips is like writing a note, and he's like, all right, you know what? Screw you. He ties him up and is about to like blindfolds him, and he's about to like execute him. And I'm like, at this point, like I said, this could be like not historically accurate. Like this is part of the film. But I for me, I'm just like, why? Because he had the instructions. The Navy gave him instructions. He's like, wear this, stay in your seat.
Yeah.
Navy knows he's on C-15 of this lifeboat. So they know where not to shoot if they were to execute. And now he's writing in love. Okay, to be fair, in this situation, like I don't blame
he
him.
wants to write the will.
He wants to write
kind of like last words to his family.
Last words to his family. I don't blame him for that, but like, it's just he's like.
But then he attacks.
He's making the Navy's life so much harder.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, I think it was understandable when he starts writing the will, right? He wants to, say something, some final words. But when he attacks the G, that's when I'm just like, why? What was the point of that?
Reciprocates, yeah. I mean,
where he fights back and where Captain Phillips tries to get back in the G, and he's only fighting the G. And then the driver has to tell the young boy, "Hey, stop him!" And that's why they finally subdue Captain Phillips. But I was like, what was the point of attacking, right? Like they were, I don't know. I don't think even the G was about to kill it. He just he took the pen away, he took the note away, and I guess Captain Phillips was kind of more concerned with that, right? Because like, oh, that's his note, right? To his family. But still, it's just like attacking. I don't think was the But again, I don't know how true. Maybe it's just more for dramatization, right? To have this final brawl. Right, and have them be more suspenseful and attack. Like, oh, now he's about to be executed. Will the Navy act? Will they fire? And but
I guess it was it just didn't really help. I guess at least from my perspective, because we got to see like the Navy's perspective and how they're setting up. And everything.
That's true.
So it's like from the viewer's perspective, they're like the Navy's going to be pretty successful with this. Like they know what it looks like they know what they're doing. Like they like brought out snipers. They have these parachute men. There's like so much going on. There's like 2 big ass ships that are surrounding this little tiny lifeboat, and it's like, oh my gosh, like Phillips, please. Like I guess it's like if we didn't know how much setup, how many resources, how much planning there was, then like maybe like I could be under the impression that
would have justified. Like
it's justified. Maybe the Navy's like going to kill everyone. I don't know. Like maybe it's an accident, or like maybe there'll be a mistake, and then like I'm gonna die in the crossfire or whatnot. Mm-hmm. But like, it just felt like it was like, why is this happening? It's like, is this for the dramatization? Like, is this trying to like make us like introduce like this unnecessary drama and this like life-threatening biography?
Yeah, that's true. Like we don't know if it's like that. If it was a real life depiction, or if it was again conversation. And it kind of seemed like, I feel like it kind of. I won't say out of character for Captain Phillips, but Captain Phillips was always kind of like calm. Trying to calm and trying to talk everyone down and wasn't as aggressive. And then at the end, like when maybe tough situations,
It changes people. When you're
change
under
people.
stress,
But
like
this
it.
exactly under duress and all that. But still, it was kind of seemed like, oh, he finally lashed out. Um,
It's like
I
the
don't know.
worst time. Why are you? It's like this is not a
Yeah,
good time
the
to
worst
lash
time to do
out.
it.
Oh, like I said, I mean, like in these types of times, I've never really been in this like a hostage
That's
situation,
true.
so I don't know how I would react. I I don't know. Maybe I don't think I would be more of like a fight type. I probably just like
Yeah.
just like I don't know, just be there and just like hopefully something good will happen. But maybe like in the last moment when you think you're about to die, you just try your best to survive, and then maybe his survival instincts kicked in at the last moment. It's just
Yeah.
it was just kind of frustrating to see that unfold because the Navy was doing so much to like prepare for this because it looked like they were going to execute, like the snipers are out,
Yeah.
and they were like they were pinpointing other positions of the pirates, and I think they're maybe just buying time to make sure that like they weren't going to accidentally shoot Phillips in the crossfire. But,
Right.
yeah, it just made his life made their life a little bit harder.
It did.
I think, and for me, I just thought it was so unnecessary. I was like, Phillips, please. But I also, at the same time, I think part of the reason was because we, as the audience, were able to see this preparation unfold from the Navy's side.
That is true. That is true. We had that context.
We had that context.
Dramatic irony. So yeah, definitely.
If we didn't see the Navy's preparations, I could understand. Like, it would have made it more believable. Like, I would have been like, oh, okay, he's like, last moment, like, fight or flight response, survival instinct kicked in. So I would totally buy it. I would more so buy it as an audience viewing it. But like, it's just. I just felt like that detracted a little bit. It was like, oh my god, why is this happening now?
Yeah.
Anyway, I wanted to talk about that because I just thought it was so out of place. Like, it felt out of character and it felt out of place.
That's true. I agree. No, I agree. Yeah. I also want to bring up, I guess, some interesting scenes that I wanted to bring up as well, or points, was how Muse always got captured, right? First time in the right? He got captured by the crew, and the second time he goes on. He's the leader, right? But he goes off, and he's the one who's the brave one who was able to he does it himself. He's the one who first takes the step forward. Like he goes to find the crew in the engine room, gets captured. He goes on to the Navy ship to negotiate and meet with the elders. Gets captured. The second time around, I was like, oh wow, again he gets captured, but. That point was kind of accurate. Like he gets captured, and they had to show it. But it's like, oh, the second time, he got duped into thinking the elders were coming, and he was able to negotiate. And I guess these pirates, they're under stress as well. They don't. They think they have the upper hand, but turns out no, they're just keeping him off board. At least have one pirate, apprehended while the other three are still in the water.
Yep.
They can have one less person to have to target and aim, right? But yeah, just wanted to point out, Muse was always the one, going out and above as a leader, and then getting captured because of it, and then leaving the rest of his crew in the dark, and to fend for themselves, and to be led by Najee, who's a bit more aggressive and provocative, and, trying to at least kill. He really was hell bent on killing Captain Phillips when he can, or shooting it.
Yeah.
The captain. And then another portion I wanted to point out was I think it would be I appreciated how the story focused mainly on Captain Phillips and Muse and whatnot, and rarely shown. I think like in a movie like this, if it was made in the 90s and whatnot, like they probably have more of a focus on like the military, right? And how how like the SEALs were like trained, and you get to this, you could probably see the perspective of the SEALs, but they're more of like an afterthought, but I think it would have been interesting if they noted like how tough that shot was, right? Like all of these three SEALs trying to simultaneously shoot, 3 targets in the open water, right? That's in the dark. That was moving. I read somewhere how difficult this shot was, but I think they could have sold that a little bit more, and just like, oh, this was very difficult, and or not to sold it, but like commented like having like it was very. I mean, maybe these guys are trained so they can do it, but I just thought, I remember reading somewhere like someone commented like how tough and difficult and almost impossible to doing it at the same time. These these snipers shooting and hitting their target was it was a very impressive feat. But I think it'll be interesting to have shown like their thought process or how it's interesting how they were trying to line it up, right? He was saying he want 3 green shots, right?
Yeah, they kept on
and
saying
it happened
green,
at
like green and red. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, exactly. At the very last minute, they finally got it, and it was probably more dramatized, right? Because like right before Captain Phillips was going to be shot, they finally got the green light. I feel like they probably had it beforehand, but still, that was all probably just dramatization. But I think they could more sold, like not sold, but emphasize the idea like how difficult and how kind of tough the shot would have been. And I think I also would have maybe more appreciated if they kind of shot more of like, even though I said that I like that the story focused on Captain Phillips and Muse, I think it'd been nice to see more of the politics behind the scenes of like, I think that for me the second half of the movie kind of dragged on because again they're in the same location in a small lifeboat being chased down, kind of dragged on. I wanted to see, I think at that point maybe cut more to the policies and decisions that came kind of were handed down to rescue Phillips, right? Because then we were told like, oh, the White House has authorized any means necessary. We must get Captain Phillips back aboard, or the pirates must not reach Somalia, right? At any means necessary, right? The pirates can't win. So what was the decision? What consequences were being weighed down by public officials, all the way up to President Obama, right? Like what were they thinking?
Yeah.
Right. I think that would have been more interesting to see like behind the scenes of that. But again, I would have let that. I think I would have liked to see like that decision because there's all tough situations outside. Like how would they have dealt with one captain? One kind of civilian. How would these the U.S. government want to be perceived as, right? I wanted to see like what the decisions being made, but I think the story was more focused on Captain Phillips, and that's fine. But I think I wanted to see this kind of tale that depicted all these events. I kind of wanted to see a more encompassing like what was going on, and we got to see some portions of the Navy, but I want to see like the decisions that were being handed down, right? Did they weigh the consequences, the perceptions, and like, oh, we want to make sure that the U.S. government seems invincible, or like we have to do this at all costs, even at the cost of Phillips. Like but I think I wanted to see like the more behind the scenes of that regards, because all we saw was Navy says, oh, the higher up says we have to get him, and they send the SEALs in, and then we see them SEALs try and get ready and preparing. But I wanted to see, I think, a little bit more depth into like the decisions that were being made to get to that point, and maybe like their perspectives, like how tough that that maneuver would have been. But it was very interesting to me in that regard. And then I also want to point out, I guess before it was just kind of like well, I kind of how would have improved the movie or made it more what I would have liked. But another point I think I want to stress is how great I think the acting was between pretty much all the actors, right? All the main actors, right? Tom Hanks was phenomenal. I guess especially at the end when he was like traumatic, was in trauma and in shock after he finally was free. That whole portion when he was being checked by the medic, the doctor, I think it was really good. He really sold it. That he was like really like I think any actor would be really hard to like portray that emotion, just like being out there in shock and in disbelief. And I think Tom Hanks really sold it really well. And then the other actors, I think the pirates, they all did a really good job. I think just trying showing like each of them have their own personalities, either being scared or aggressive or being strong or not knowing what's happening or just trying to do it. They're trying to do what they can, and they don't really know what's going on. They're just pretty much winging it. And I think each of the pirates also sold that when they were their acting was spot on. Everything I think was all believable, right? It was all kind of realistic, and none of their acting really took me out of it. I think each actor, each of the pirates, I think did a phenomenal job with portraying each of their characters. So I just wanted to, the acting was I think on point for all the main cast, especially, and I just really enjoyed the acting of again the pirates and Tom Hanks.
Yeah, like it was good. You did bring up the acting part, and I think the acting was good, and I think for both sides, from both like the crew and the pirates. I think the acting was really well done, um, and it was very believable. Like, and like, I think yeah, I mean Tom Hanks is a phenomenal actor, so like, it's
Yeah.
just very nice. When I first heard him, one of his first lines in the movie, I was like, oh that, yeah. For me, Tom Hanks is like Woody from Toy Story. Literally, like I didn't actually the first film I watched of Tom Hanks was Toy Story. And it wasn't
Yeah.
like one of his like it wasn't like Forrest Gump. It wasn't I mean, what like his other very prominent films before Toy Story I can't think of, but yeah, I didn't watch him through Forrest Gump. I didn't watch him through like his other like really prominent live action roles. I the first film I watched was Toy Story. So when I heard Tom Hanks this first time, I was like, oh Woody, it sounds like Woody. Um, but no, like yeah, he's a really good actor. Um, and I agree with that. The acting was very it was good. Um,
It's kind of funny also how Tom Hanks kind of at least nowadays, or not now, like more towards later his career, he's playing all these kind of realistic characters, like real life depictions, right?
mhm.
He also played Captain Sully, which is interesting, right? He was the pilot. He plays the pilot. Where there's a plane that lands into the Hudson. That's
Yeah,
another interesting event that he portrayed. He's depicted as.
yeah,
And then he's also depicted, I believe, Mr. Rogers as well. So he's doing all these adaptions of real life people.
yeah.
Um,
That's true. That's true. Hmm. Yeah, I wonder if people like he has a reputation of doing good adaptations of characters. So people are like, oh yeah, let's bring on Tom Hanks. If our budget allows it, you know. I'm sure he's not cheap. I'm sure he's yeah. But I mean, he has that if you're a fan of Tom Hanks, I think you'll enjoy this movie.
he also played Walt Disney in
He played Walt
Saving Mr.
Disney.
Banks.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, in Saving Mr. Banks, which is a kind of a so yeah, he's playing all these like real life
Yeah,
depictions of people.
interesting, interesting. I know he was in, like
But he's
other
a great actor.
like more like, he was in a film called like Saving Private Ryan. I think.
Yes, he was.
Um,
Yeah,
I'm not sure if that was based on historical events, but I mean, it was. I mean, like, it is
I think
based
it was based on an event, but it was more drama. Like the characters, I
are
don't think
fictional, right?
were.
Like, I don't know if the
Yeah, I
characters are
think.
fictional or not, but like there was, it is, the premise of the film is based on historical events, and just whether or
Yeah,
not the characters were fictional or non-fiction. Um, but yeah, there was the point that he made about whether you wanted to see more of like the command, like the U.S. government involved in the preparation of how like this rescue mission was executed. Um,
hmm
yeah, I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because I feel like there was already enough detail. Like to me, I already felt the sense that these shots, like like the preparation they made to rescue Phillips was very like in depth and it felt like very intense and um it didn't feel easy at all.
yeah,
Like this when I saw like they were doing the whole like green red in terms of like the snipers are trying to give info on like what angles they have and what shots they're able to do. Um,
yeah.
to me, there were like a couple of moments like that. To me, I already got the sense that this was like really difficult.
That's true.
But I mean, that might be just me. Yeah. How would you? I guess. How would you rank this film?
Hmm.
A lot. We're gonna. So this is the part where my friend and I, we rank the film. We kind of discussed like how we could improve it if we give it like a lower ranking or whatever.
Yeah.
And just closing thoughts, remarks. So
Yeah.
show's about to end. Just FYI. If you're
um,
if you're making popcorn, don't make more.
how
But yeah.
how would I rank this film? I think the film was pretty good. I feel like it kind of went a little long, but maybe that's because also I know kind of like the events were happening, and maybe that's why I kind of wanted to have like different depictions of like, yeah, again, all the official decisions. But I kind of realized like the story should have just focused, and it's good that focused around Captain Phillips and Muse. But I just felt like sometimes it just went, felt like a little long. Um, but other than that, like I really think everything they did pretty good. Sometimes you do wonder like if like what kind of like events were just dramatizations or just what events were just like kind of like dubious, not dubious, but kind of like questionable, like the actions or like if they were just questionable or if it's just dramatization. I'm pretty sure it's probably more dramatization. If anything, I'm pretty sure like the event was probably just like yes, he captured. He probably just sat in the lifeboat and just waiting. I don't know if there's any fights or any maybe there's probably tension, but I don't think it's like as high tension. I think everyone was just trying to do their own thing. So I think some of it might have been a bit more, some of the exaggerations, which kind of, at that point kind of felt off. It might kind of, felt a little bit, added drama, but at the same time, the story itself, it was, pretty engaging for most of the film. I feel like maybe the later half, kind of, I was just like, oh, is this kind of getting long? And this is a 2 hour and 15-minute movie. So,
yeah.
So I was kind of feeling it near like at the second half of it. I think just when they're being stuck on the water and you're trying to hoping the Navy will save him soon. But again, depicting real events, so it kind of understandable how the flow of the movie went. The acting was phenomenal, really, really drew me in, especially the ending scenes. And they ended pretty up. Not I don't want to say abruptly, right? But they ended it with a rescue, right?
Yep.
So he's rescued, and that's it. They didn't show him like getting home. They didn't show the Muse getting sent to prison or anything. All they showed was Muse gets captured. Captain Phillips, gets treated by the doctor, and that's the end scene. And then they have like a final, few lines, saying what happened afterwards, right?
Yep.
To each of the characters. So I don't think, I don't think they needed to have a resolution like that. Like to show him. I mean, it would have been nice, to see him, go back to his family, to his home, right? For like a hero's welcome. But it does end kind of short like that. Yeah. You kind of want to. I mean, I guess if they for a film that's kind of where at different points of the time, Captain Phillips kind of emphasized, does his family know where he is, or this is is what happened to his wife, and he's writing his note to his family. It would have been nice to see that kind of reunion, right? To show that he's safe and finally back home. But it might not have been needed, but it would have been maybe a good final touch. But at that point, I was just like, okay, this movie's ending. That would probably added another 2 minutes to the film. And I'm just like, I was kind of done. I was like, okay, this is a long movie to begin with. So, but I don't know what I would have reduced. Maybe sometimes some of the interactions could have been reduced, and some of the more like tense scenes maybe could have been written out. Just so that the movie could have been a little bit more condensed. I feel like, but each time there was an ebb and flow, right? Maybe we could have had a little bit less in order to make the movie move along just a little bit quicker, just to show and maybe combine scenes in a way to show that how crafty the pirates were. I mean, yes, I think it was important to see the kitchen scene where the first meat was caught, but I wonder if that could have been kind of combined with maybe. First meet, noticing when he's, hiding instead of having that whole scene in the kitchen. But it's just, I think little nitpicks here and there. Overall, I think the film was great. It's just, it just felt like at least for me, it ran a little long. Maybe that's because we already know, or I already know what kind of happened. Like, at least in real life, right? Captain Phillips gets saved, the crew is safe, the Navy does its job, and the pirates are captured. I forgot. I forgot personally, which the pirates all survived or all died, but. Muse gets captured on board, and the rest of the three, kind of die. And again, there's really not much you can, I feel like, change, because again, it's depicting real life. But yeah, again, sometimes there's some of the exaggerations, dramatizations didn't work too well for me. But again, it was a good movie. How I'd rank it, I might give it, I think, an 8.5.
All right.
Yeah, I think it's still a good film, right? Like the acting, really engaging. Tom Hanks, phenomenal job. Just sometimes it just went a little longer, and I think something's going to be shortened, and some of the actions could have, maybe been handled, shown, portrayed differently. And there's, a little bit more that I want, but again, there's nothing like inherently wrong with the movie, right? It's a good movie, it told a good story, and it did its job in terms of being entertaining. Just sometimes it was a little slow.
Okay. Yeah. So for my part, I think I mostly agree with a lot of what you said. The certain things that I would change about the movie. Um, okay, so for one, I would have liked, actually would have liked at the end if they had shown him go home and reunite with his family, or at least his wife, and sort of showed Muse in the American prison, because it kind of started with, the film started with
That
him.
is true.
So
That
like,
is true. Where they start and where they end,
yeah,
yeah.
where they start and where they end. Like it would have been nice, like kind of like a full circle ending. Now that being said, I would have added a couple of minutes, and in order to sort of like, replace, like, because this is going to be more of like a replacement edit, um, like which parts that could be cut out to bring this like sort of section in, so that way kind of the ending feels a little bit more like full circle, like just like
Mhm.
conclusive. Because I do agree. I think the ending was a little bit abrupt, and I was like, interesting. Like they didn't even show, like they just showed him in the clinic at the very end, and after that, it just like goes to like the, oh, Captain Phillips was rescued, he was safe, Muse was imprisoned. Like that's fine, but like, I think I would have appreciated more of a, like, if instead of just telling us, they just showed us that
Some kind of closure,
some
yeah.
sort of closure. So the part where I would have like gotten rid of is the part where he tries to like jump from the water, like he jumps into the water and tries to swim to the navy. Like I feel like that was, unless that was historically accurate, and they were just trying to like put that in because they were trying to like respect the history. I
Yeah.
didn't really feel like that whole scene was necessary. That whole like cat and mouse where they're like, Navy is trying to figure out where he is, and he's like swimming, and he's like, and the pirates recapture him. I just felt like that was just unnecessary. Like I feel like that whole sequence could have just been taken out, and then replaced with a more conclusive ending. Um,
That's true.
because that whole sequence was like like a couple minutes. Like it felt like it was
Yeah, it was.
like why? First of all, I was confused why he even did that. Like
Well, he wanted to escape, right? He thought this was a good chance to run out.
that's true, but I just feel like it wasn't. It just felt out of place, because like,
What I felt was out of place was him trying to fight back.
okay, I mean that's true. There was something else that was also another part I was going to like replace, more so, but at least in my mind, I just felt like, I guess this is more so because the film depicted, like, it gave us both sides of like the Navy and him. So like at least in my mind, I felt like he was in good hands. But like it just, him like going out and trying to jump for water, like unless they had like, they didn't show much of the Navy's perspective in terms of like the preparation they were making, and all you saw was more so from his perspective, then I could believe that more so. But it just felt out of place. Um, and it could have, like, that time that was spent doing that cat and mouse chase in the water could have been just like, could have been used to provide a more conclusive ending. Um, and also, yeah, when you said about the attacking part, yeah, I agree that he probably shouldn't have it. Like they could have cut that part out, and like he could have like like, so when he was writing his note, like I feel like that part was fine, and then like when he's got caught writing the note, Najee, the guy who was really aggressive about to kill him, he like they could have shown him like just shouting at Phillips, and like you could have seen like Phillips like maybe like crying or something, like he's thinking that this is like the last moment of his life, and like
Yeah.
G is just like aggressively like shoving him, and like he's like, all right, go, we need to execute him, blindfold him, whatever. Like there's no like fight, basically. Like you just see this like really like build up, this tension that's about to explode, this emotion that Phillips is experiencing, thinking that this is probably like his last moments. Um,
Yeah. I
I
kind of
think
want to add. I'm sorry. Just as an aside.
yeah,
I kind of looked up like the situation of
yeah,
what happened at the real time events,
yeah.
and apparently Phillips did try to escape um,
Oh, okay.
from the lifeboat, right? And then he was recaptured after the captors fired shots. So that was actually a true event,
That was a
right?
true
And
event.
I think,
Okay, all right.
yeah,
All right, okay. I thought, like if they're respecting the history, that's fine. They can. But anyway, they should. I feel like they could have taken the part where he was attacking the.
yeah.
I agree with that. I don't think that felt out of place too. Um, but yeah, no, I felt like maybe a more conclusive ending would have helped. It felt kind of abrupt. Um, Yeah, I think the film did a good job of like the acting was really good, and I feel like the film did a pretty decent job of like sympathizing, in some sense, with Muse and the pirates. Maybe not like Najee, who was the most aggressive, but like,
Hmm.
um, yeah, it did a. I think it did a decent job of like you kind of had a sense. It was subtle, but it was well. I think it was well executed. It wasn't like in
Yeah.
your face. Like they didn't have like this have like blunt, drawn out conversation about life or something like that. It was just like these very small subtle
Right.
interactions where you're like get a glimpse of like, oh, they're in it just to get money. They don't want to cause. They don't want to kill. Um,
Right.
so I thought that was well done, and yeah, I'd give this movie an 8.
An 8.
Yeah. Um, overall, I think I would have given it a 9, but I felt like the ending could have been a bit better.
It would have wrapped it up a little bit more nicely. I see
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Because like I think what this film does really well is the whole like thriller aspect. This whole like ebb and flow of tension as time progresses. Like
Hmm.
someone who doesn't know the actual events, it was engaging to see like how the events were going to unfold. And I was really drawn into like these like tense buildups, and then these like how they were resolved. So that whole sequence in the first act when they were like Hanks or Phillips was leading the pirates to the ship, that whole sequence of like where the like there's the whole like the crew was just like being intelligent in real time. I really enjoyed that because it was a nice like um, almost like a cat and mouse sort of thing.
Yeah, and
Um,
it became a little bit more engaging, right? You
it
just
made
see
it
how like
engaging.
the
Yeah,
crew were interacting and what they were doing. It wasn't just Captain Phillips, right? The crew was
the
trying
crew was
to
actively
find a
yeah
way
yeah
to
they were trying to find a
yeah
way. They were
being I
being
was being active. I think that's yeah.
yeah. So it was just really nice to see like that unfold in real time. That whole sequence unfold in real time. It was really nice to see like these subtle interactions between the pirates and Phillips and seeing like their humanity. It was really nice to also see how difficult, like how much like I personally thought that the whole sequence of the Navy setting up and everything was like to me it just looked really like difficult. Like it was one of those things where like wow, there's a lot of resources being put into this, and like it doesn't seem like this is like one of those like simple rescue missions. And I thought that was also pretty well done. Um,
Mm.
at least in my mind, I thought it was enough, but maybe in your perspective they could have done more. um, yeah, it's just the ending. I thought the ending was abrupt. I thought that last some of those actions that Phillips did, I I mean jumping out like sure okay if it was based on history I don't fault them with that, that's fine. But like attacking um yeah at the last moment it just didn't feel right. It just felt out of place, and I felt like it's just making the life so much harder, and it felt a little bit like it was
Yeah,
dramatizing the
exactly.
moment. Maybe that was true. Maybe that was also based on historical events. Maybe Phillips was like, yeah, I tried to attack him at the last moment right before the
Maybe
snipers got
I
them
didn't
all.
see it, but yeah, it could have been.
Um,
That's true.
it just didn't feel like the escalation could have been there without him fighting back.
Yeah, no,
Um,
definitely. Yeah, yeah, they
so
could have. Yeah, definitely done that. Yeah, without him. Yep.
so like yeah, I mean, I think for the most part the movie, I really liked also how short the exposition was. They
Mm.
didn't overstay its time in terms of setting up the characters. You kind of knew as an audience like this is crew pirates, something yeah, that's the conflict of this film. So it's like that was good. It's just the ending. Yeah, the ending was detracted a bit with how
And
abrupt
only
it
an
was.
8.
I mean, 8 is yeah. I enjoy the movie.
That rate's pretty high.
It's
Yeah.
as a thriller. As a
Yeah.
thriller, it did its job really well, at least in my mind. Yeah,
Yeah.
tension was well done in terms of yeah. So yeah, good film. For those of you who are still watching or who will watch in the VOD later, I would recommend it. If you're looking for a thriller, if you're looking for a historical, something that's based on like a hostage pirate, if you're looking for modern day to know more about modern day pirates,
Hmm.
if you like Tom Hanks, if you like these like hostage situations where like they're high tension, um, if you enjoy thrillers, if you enjoy learning more about like I guess this historical event, this film is for you. I highly
Yep.
recommend. Um, But yeah, that's it. We do this every week, 11 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. We discuss a film. Uh, if you're curious what film we're going to discuss, we don't know until after the stream. Maybe I should put like a schedule. I think that would help a lot.
Get a
But
Twitter, post it.
yeah, Twitter. Um, but we also actually have a YouTube channel called Yippa Trick. I will link it in the chat. It's basically like a shortened version of like this stream, the highlights of it, and like the audio is kind of fixed. It's better, and yeah, just a better like arrangement, if you will, of what happens in this stream. It's almost 1 p.m. here. I don't know about my friend, but I'm getting hungry, and we still need to figure out what our next film we're gonna watch for next week is. So, with that, any last thoughts?
No,
No?
not for me. Recommend the movie. It's good.
I recommend the movie. All right, cool. With that, we'll see you guys next week, 11 a.m. Sunday, Pacific time, with the new film. All right, have a good one. Thanks, chat.
Bye.